For this night scene of a beautiful lantern, I will begin with masking, but I'll also be doing 2 layers of masking. I think that the best way of approaching this piece, which is also from Pixabay, would be to mask out on the white the panels of the light and these very white lights. So just do a first layer of masking of these. And then add an ink layer across the bulk of the piece that's in these nice kind of golden orangish colors, and actually maybe even altering it a little bit so that this is more orange and this is more gold. Put a layer of that ink on and then mask all of these fine details like the tree and the little filigrees in the light. And then after that dries, put in the darker background. So I'm going to begin with the drawing I have here, which has really just the features that I want to be masking. And I'll start by just masking these very light panels. And some of these lighter areas of these are the spotlights, I think. Now that the first layer of masking, this is the lightest lights, is dry, we're going to add the next layer of color, which is really in this golden range here. So I've picked out honeycomb and terracotta. And I'm not sure if terracotta is a current color. I think it is. Anyway, rust, any of the orangey ones will be fine. I'm going to add the honeycomb and terracotta over some of these areas as it looks in the picture. So these are kind of lighter than this area. And then I will do some masking over that layer once it dries. And I'm going to use the cotton ball just to make sure that the layer's not too thick. This is the terracotta. This is the honeycomb. Okay, I'm gonna let this dry. So this is the dried ink layer with the honeycomb and terracotta. And I'm going to start the second part of the masking. And I'm looking at all of these areas that are just kind of in that orangey honeycomb range. And I think it'll be easier to go ahead and mask them now and then add this much richer, darker layer next. So I will start. They are sort of drawn, not entirely, but enough to get me started. So I'm just beginning with this tallest lamp and coming through these decorative elements. So we'll be able to do some lifting, but if I can have some of this bright color kind of pop through the dark sky, I think it'll look really nice. At least I hope so. And if it's really terrible, you'll just never see the video, so you won't know. And I'm not doing every part of this lamp. There'll be opportunity to lift. There'll be many different options. But I think we'll just get more different color values by doing it this way. And now I'm going to come back to these tree branches. I'm hopeful that all this energy at this stage will make the rest of the painting go very quickly. And I'm going to let this dry before we put on the very dark background. Now that the next layer of masking fluid is dry, I'd like to add in this deep dark background. And the colors I've selected for that are espresso and pitch black, but mostly espresso. And I also have a brush out here. I'm going to use it just to make sure the ink's covered, and not use the cotton ball in case there's fuzzies. So this is some of the black. So we'll let that dry vertically. So this is the dried background. It's kind of a very dark brown. And I'm going to lift off the masking fluid. And hopefully we'll have a design we can see, with some of it being in the gold range and some of it being white. So we can see the areas that are gold versus areas that have the first layer of white on. Also, to be slightly concerned about pulling off too much the background ink. You can pull it all off if I'm not careful. So this is the picture with the masking fluid removed, and I think I'll have to lighten up some of the white areas, but it actually looks pretty cool. I'm going to just do some lifting of some more features in the lamp and the trees, and this is kind of, I think it's like a crimson, it's kind of an orange color, but it's just a marker. So we'll see if I might need something a little bit lighter. But we'll just add some of these tree branches back through here. This is the fatter side of this. I'm going to just add in some color. We'll have to probably pull back in some darker browns. This is a lighter tan. I'm going to use it on some of the areas that might want to be a little bit lighter. This is just alcohol. It's a little bit dirty, but it is just alcohol. Just trying to clean up some of this. All right, now we have nice clean alcohol. We'll see if that improves our, oh yes, I think so, ability to brighten up these lights. This is a sepia pen. I'm going to use that to kind of go over some of these lines. Hopeful that will blend in. Come over to the trees and just kind of make these branches all a lot smaller. Come down into this more ornate section, and I'm going to tighten it up, but I really don't want it to be like exact, mostly because I don't want to do that. So I just want it to have the appearance of some tighter lines, but not exactly. So I might come back in and lighten a little bit with a cotton swab. So I've got to reconcile this line here with this roof line here. So I really need to kind of be more parallel. And it looks like this line really ought to be down this way. So I need some ink to fill in this. That's not really going to do it, but that's the line I think we're looking for. So this is a very dark brown marker. I use this marker to darken parts of this lamppost as well. So kind of somehow make this marker fit in better. So one way is to continue it like all the way up. And then maybe soften the edge a little bit. Might work. Then we still have some bit down here. I'm just going to color it in a little bit more over it. And it's really relatively the same color, but I like the smooth look better. But I think this might fit in. And I'm going to take a cotton swab. This is the round one. And just add some texture with it. This will definitely lighten some things up a little bit, but we might be able to get a more informal texture. And this is the pointier swab. I'm going to lift out some of the roof design and then come back in with the orange. I guess this is like a dentillation. I'm also going to soften the lines I just put in. Can't really see anything, but there probably is a top to that light. I'm going to add a little bit more of this orange back into. And I'd like to add some yellow in. See if this marker will do it. Otherwise I might grab some honeycomb. I think I'll do that. And this is the honeycomb ink. It's pretty bright. So we'll have to lift some of that out. Sometimes you get things that are just not bright enough, and then other times things are way too bright. And this is just alcohol to kind of bring this back down a little bit. Just arch over these. And I think I'll just let it sit and see how I feel about it. So I've walked away from it for a few minutes, and one thing I'd like to do is continue this kind of gentle texturing over to the rest of this. I like the darkness of it, but I think that it would fit better if there was some texture. So this is the softer regular cotton swab. I'm just going to add in just a little bit of texture. The brownish marker. Yeah, it's a dark brown. This is also a brown, but slightly lighter. This is the pointy swab. I'll lift some of those tree branches out. And kind of draw them back in. See if I can lift it all with this one. Just wouldn't mind getting to the side of this one. And a little bit more lifting. And I think I'll just stop and see how this looks. So I've let the piece sit overnight, and I want to make just some adjustments to the lightness, darkness, and the kind of the orange glow that's about it. So actually just kind of going back over a lot of the picture, but I think we're pretty close. So I'm going to start with the brush and some terracotta ink, and I want to just kind of come into some of these windows. I'll start with that. This is more of a golden marker. I'll see if I can blend some of this color back. There's actually some windows back here, so I might add them in. This is a dark brown marker. So have some adjustments to make here as well. So one thing I noticed when I was looking at it was that we had some smooth passages and some rather kind of thickly, impressionistically textured passages, and that kind of bothered me. So I think my decision last night was to go ahead and just continue to add this kind of rough texture actually through all of the smooth passages, so at least the texture would be even throughout the piece. So my plan to do that is to take actually the fatter end of this marker and just kind of rough up the texture. It should be relatively the same color, and just kind of even the texture out. And then bring some of that similar texture into this building, which is really pretty much entirely in darkness. So now that we've added the dark ink, I'd like to see if I can blend a little bit more with the terracotta. This is the cotton swab with some alcohol. And I'd like this transition to be smoother, so let me see if I can. This is a little of the terracotta. In this space, there's kind of a windows or a door back here. And I also want to darken part of this. It's much more in shadow than I have it. This is some of the terracotta. I think there's just a couple tiny tweaks I'd like to do. I'd like to somehow soften that line a little bit. It's pretty impressionistic, so I'm not too worried about it being perfect in any way, because it's completely not. But I really would like it to have just a kind of a generally nice overall feel of night. So this is cotton swab and alcohol, just a little bit of lifting. I think I will stop here.